Anyway, you can just paste it in the chat room or something.
Yeah, sure. Or I can just email it to you.
Yeah, just email it to me again. I don't know why I can't find it.
Because Google ate it, probably.
Did it come from you?
Should have.
Oh, yeah, I found it. It came from you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Google failed. I typed Daily Tech News, and it didn't come up as a search result.
Well, they're not that good at search.
Damn it. All right.
More of an advertising company.
I know, right? All right, I got it. Let me look at the headlines a little bit here.
Okay, yeah, no problem. We got a couple minutes.
Oh, we're live.
This is the video's live pre-show.
Ooh.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm all for talking about the 5SE for sure.
Cool.
Phones are my thing, so
yeah.
I'm up for that. Let's see.
Be right back.
Patrick, getting close. Don't go far.
Patrick. Oh, Patrick. We love you.
I got to take the dog for a walk. I got to run down to the store. Be right back.
What did Patrick hear again? Dear Patrick.
What?
Where did Patrick go?
Oh, he said he'd be right back. I don't know where he went. Oh, and Miriam W. Scottis1 wants me to remind you we have a chat room at irc.chatrealm.net.
Ooh, I'll be right there.
Hashtag or pound chat to join the
IRC. What is it?
Chat Realm.
Chat Realm. Is that
no E at the end of realm?
Okay, and chatrealm.net. So I need to fire up colloquy.
You can get it in a browser too. It's up to you.
Is it?
Yeah, if you do irc.chatrealm.net in the browser, it'll give you a browser-based client.
I use irc.dtns.tv.
That works too. That redirects.
And what's the channel, sorry?
Chat.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, that's nice. I'll just go in as Tankerl if you want to opt me or whatever you do there.
Yeah, somebody op her. She's coming in now. Coming in hot.
I'm in. Woohoo! Coming hot.
Ooh, it's Tech Girl. Like old 2000s. No, it's fine. You just took out the vowels, which is very,
Well, that's my handle, everywhere, and like it's from the mid '90s that I came up with that one because Tank Girl.
Because a Tank Girl.
It's a great comic, yeah.
I know. Because I didn't want to get sued, Now that I'm a brand, they can't touch me. Ah.
There's no vowels. There's no cause for confusion.
Screw you. They won't hold in court.
No one is going to confuse my brand with yours.
I know, right?
Your brand clearly has vowels. Mine does not. All right.
I'm just looking at the headline still. I'll let you know in a sec.
Okay.
I haven't seen anything yet, Tom.
On Yahoo?
Yeah.
There's a live blog from Fortune. Might be worth keeping an eye on.
So exciting.
They're
Will
also
it happen?
late.
Will it not happen?
Well, yeah.
Oh my gosh, Kara Swisher is so mean.
Oh wait, what's she being?
On Twitter, she wrote, just like Yahoo, to be late to its own party/funeral/strategic alternatives.
Oh, come on, it's Kara. That's what we love her. Come on.
I know. It's funny mean.
I know, right? Daily Tech News, you said, is the Twitter handle?
Yeah, it's Daily Tech News, because that's the character.
Oh, yeah, there it is. I see it.
Daily Tech News.
How did I not? I've remedied this. You're following 0 people. That's awesome.
Really? That account follows 0 people? I guess because I use it in TweetDeck all the time. I never thought about it. Yeah, I should probably follow somebody.
Let me actually look at it again. I'm sure you tweeted about this, so I'm going to retweet you or whatever.
Oh, no, we probably haven't.
Oh, really?
Actually, I've been sitting here, sitting on my thumbs. I tweeted about it from Ace Detect earlier, but...
oh, okay, cool.
About to talk camera phones with Tank Girl and not Patrick.
Not Patrick. Such a good handle. Well, since you're ahead of me, I will retweet you then.
TV. Okay, there we go.
All right, I see that.
Twitter has a new Twitter, when you click on a tweet on the web page.
Yeah.
They have a new way to display the thread. It was very confusing at first, but actually is better.
Twitter's a mess.
Yeah.
Pissing me off because I'm a huge fan, but I'm just annoyed with it now.
All right, you guys ready to go?
Yep.
Here we
I
go.
was born ready. I was born ready.
Like that. That's how you do it.
Thank you.
When having tea with the Queen, you must remember 3 important things. 1. Pinky up. 2. Never wear a hat more audacious than hers. And 3. Make sure you wear your DTNS t-shirt. To become Queen appropriate, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, February 2nd, 2016, Groundhog Day. Apparently we get a quick spring, according to Punxsutawneyville. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Mr. Patrick Beja, as he does most Tuesdays, but this time not from France. How is Finland, Patrick?
Well, it is dark and cold. That's how it is, and it's lovely.
So
though.
it's
I'm loving. Yes, basically.
And you've got only 500 megabits per second up with a gig down. It's not even symmetrical. Your connection sucks.
I would really love to talk about this for the whole show. I'm sure we'll get a chance to do that, but I just want to know, has anyone ever experienced, and this is not a brag or a humble brag, I actually want to know, experienced a limit in the speed tests from speedtest.net where they can't actually get high enough speeds?
Patrick thinks he broke speed test because his speed is so fast. Miriam Joire, our technology writer, is joining us to talk about camera phones today. Miriam, do you believe Patrick that he has broken speed test?
Yes, and thanks for having me on the show, by the way, Tom. I actually believe it because I have a place in Portland. I spend my time halfway in Portland, halfway in San Francisco, and I have gigabit Ethernet, gigabit fiber in Portland, and I can actually get 1 gigabit symmetric. And I tried it out but I didn't keep it because it's just too much money. And now I'm down to 100, and it's perfectly fine for myself, but I believe it. Like, I've seen the speed test kind of peg, so yeah.
So there you go. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Miriam and Patrick are both being kind enough to speak English for this episode, even though they both could just speak France and leave me out of the entire conversation. So I appreciate that.
Thanks.
You're very welcome.
I was going to ask Patrick, actually, what are you doing in Finland? Did you just move there?
Yes, I did, actually. My wife is from here. She's a Swedish-speaking Finn, and we decided to spend some time in her home country. So I'm here, and the internet is fast, so I'm happy. What else do you need, really?
Yeah, a few years back, I've been to Finland a couple of times to visit Nokia back when I was at Engadget and covering phones full-time. Now I do consulting as well. But the thing that struck me the most around 2008 or so was that in an underground parking garage on the 3rd level underground, I was still getting 5 bars of 3G. And that was my kind of first experience. This was before LTE, and I was like, holy crap. I can only dream of this in the US.
All right, I'm only mentioning this because you brought up the topic, but I get, so the gigabit down, 500 megs up is about 30 euros or 40 euros, something like that, unlimited of course, and I get 4G LTE, 75 down, 30 up, around just about, unlimited, no cap as well for 25, I think, and this is just, I'm as amazed as everyone by this. It's wonderful.
Well, we probably will talk about what allows bandwidth to be higher in places than others on a future show. But as I mentioned, we got some camera phone tips coming, and we got headlines coming. So let's start those. Look, I'm not saying Mark Gurman of 9 to 5 Mac and John Pashofsky of BuzzFeed are always right about Apple rumors, but when both of them agree, it really doesn't leave a whole lot of room for me to fit in a lot of doubt. And both of them say they have sources who say Apple plans to hold an event March 15th in which it will announce a 4-inch iPhone and a new iPad Air along with new Apple Watch bands. And Gurman seems pretty confident that the phone will end up to be called the iPhone 5 SE.
Yeah, I first thought this is a weird name for an iPhone. That's too many letters. And then someone reminded me of the iPhone 3GS, which we were all fine with. So I swallowed back my Steve Jobs would never do this and hung my head in shame. Mark Zuckerberg
Well,
announced
hold on, Miriam. Wanted to weigh in on the 5SE. I know for sure. What do you think of this?
Look, both the rumors that are brewing in the tech media and the tech world out there, plus my own internal connections, are pretty much in agreement with this. I think that we're going to see an announcement March 15th for a new phone, and it wouldn't surprise me. I think it's very smart strategy on Apple's part to, have a smaller screen phone for those people who prefer that, but update it to kind of modern specs, like to be able to use Apple Pay and all that other stuff. And it's probably not very expensive for them to do at this point. Doesn't mean it won't be cheap. It will be cheap or anything. I don't think it will be. It's still driven by profit margins. So I think it's going to happen, and it's going to be interesting, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be cheaper than
cheaper.
An iPhone 6s Plus, but
it'll also still only come with 16 megs, and we'll be bitching about that.
Ugh,
and
God,
then
right.
64, and you'll pay $100 more. So basically, whatever price they announce on the day, make sure mentally to add $100 to that.
Well, yeah, and actually you probably should add $200 because you look at the 4-inch and then you actually want the bigger phone, and then you realize the bigger phone comes in 16 megs, 16 gigs only, so you have to get the 64. So
those are fighting words, because I think not everyone wants a big phone. Like, I want a big phone.
No, I agree. I
think, look, I actually, it's interesting to me. I think you're right on the one thing, is that everyone who has seen who is an iPhone 5 or 5S user or 5C and has seen the 6 or 6S, at first it's taken aback, and when they start using it for a while, they get used to it, and it's not an issue, right? But there are a few people who are diehards and stick with the fact that they want a 4-inch. Actually, what I'm hoping is, and I don't think we'll see this happening because economies of scale, supply, Tim Cook's expertise here, what they're going to do is retain the display they had on the 5, but I would love to see the same exact form factor as the 5 with a slightly larger display, 4.5-inch, squeezed in that frame. That would make me happy, because to me it's not really the fact that the screen is too big, it's that the phone is too big for most people on the big ones.
Yeah. Very true. So, Mark Zuckerberg, as I was saying, has announced on Facebook that WhatsApp now has 1 billion users, the most of any messaging app according to Fortune. The second most popular messaging app is Facebook Messenger with 800 million monthly users, followed by Tencent's WeChat with 650 million users, and Tencent's QQ with 639 million. That's impressive. 1 billion on WhatsApp.
Yeah, and this used to be that WeChat was by far and away the most popular in the world. So WhatsApp has not only made up ground, it's doubled the amount of users since it was acquired by Facebook in 2014.
Yeah, that billion club is a pretty small one, and Facebook has what, 2-3 apps or services in it. It's pretty impressive.
Microsoft has changed the Windows 10 upgrade and Windows Update from optional to recommended. ZDNet's Mary Jo Foley is talking about this over on ZDNet.com. She's got a good write-up about it. This means Windows 10 will automatically begin the upgrade process and download for users with automatic updates turned on. Now, keep in mind, you'll still be prompted to approve the install, so it won't install itself without you interacting with it, but you should pay attention when you say, yes, give me the security updates, because one of those updates might be Windows 10, and if you don't want Windows 10, you'll not want to say OK. However, if you do install it, you have 31 days to roll back to your previous Windows version. Thanks to Greg N. for posting this on the subreddit. Microsoft getting very pushy about moving people onto Windows 10.
And that move was announced a few weeks or months back. Some people, I should say, were angry at it then. I'm sure they're going to be angry at it now. But I think at this point it's pretty clear that Windows 10 is going to happen for everyone in the long run. You can't really escape it. I guess you have to put a lot more effort into it if you want to escape it. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the kind of person that has recommended updates automatically installing, you're probably not someone who pays as close attention to all of this stuff anyway, which could be good or bad. It may be that you don't really care if it goes to Windows 10, or it may be that you'll be very surprised that you accidentally said OK and got a new operating system.
Yeah, it might be people who aren't tech savvy enough to not have the recommended update automatically installed, so they're safer, and they might be very confused once they boot their computer and it's a different screen. So expect calls from your less tech savvy uncles and nieces, or members of your family.
Why is there a start button here?
A new safe harbor agreement for data transfer between the United States and Europe has been agreed upon. European Commissioner Vera Jourova and U.S. Commerce Secretary Penny Pritzker finished the agreement late Monday night, just in time for you to say that it wasn't finished, and then they signed it. They were listening, I know. The new agreement will be overseen by an independent ombudsman and will have annual reviews. The commissioner said the agreement should take about 3 months to implement.
And also, don't forget, there's still a political end to this. The data regulatory agencies in Europe all have to sign off on it. There's lots of privacy organizations that may try to oppose it, and it's questionable whether maybe the United States will oppose it in Congress or something. So it's not all done yet, but at least there is an agreement that they can try to go forward. I'm interested to see if it becomes a rocky process with people trying to scuttle it, or if it just gets swept under the rug and becomes a fact.
The thing is, I think both entities, and actually all entities, need it, because they all want to know they all want to spy on
businesses. All do
the information. So I suspect that it's going to go through in the end. Maybe, unfortunately, that's another debate for another time.
Digital Trends has a story about an exoskeleton from Suit X called the Phoenix, meant to replace wheeled mobility devices, like wheelchairs, for instance. At 27 pounds, it's about half as heavy as the most popular exoskeleton out there, called the Rewalk. The battery on the Phoenix lasts for 4 hours of continuous walking or 8 hours of intermittent use. It's modular, so it can adapt to more needs. Like if you only need it for one leg, for instance, you can make that happen. That can be hard to do with things like the Rewalk. It can be fine-tuned to your particular way of walking using an Android app. Costs $40,000, which those of us who don't buy exoskeletons probably think that's very expensive, but it's still about half of what other exoskeletons cost. Suit X is accepting pre-orders now and expects to ship the first unit in March, thanks to Jay Nominated for posting this one on the subreddit. I love that we're talking about exoskeletons in a competitive fashion with new prices and shipping dates. Like, what a wonderful world we live in.
And it's cheaper than a new car.
That's true, and you could probably walk down to the grocery store and back in this thing on 8 hours of intermittent battery life.
Yeah, it's it's still a little bit wonky. The exoskeleton doesn't simulate like actual walking speeds, and it's not as nimble, obviously, as an actual skeleton. But it's a great step forward, no pun intended. And I actually had an instance in my life where I couldn't walk, and I actually had to learn to walk again. And I was in a wheelchair for a while, and it was a process. Yeah, I had an accident when I was very young, and it was a pretty bad road accident. And I didn't realize until I was in that situation how much we take for granted as people who can walk. Just the idea of walking down some stairs when you're not stable on your feet is terrifying. But beyond that, when you can't walk, there are so many things that you don't think about, and I'm sure anyone who is or who has been in a wheelchair is is nodding their head right now. So the perspective that we could maybe someday have this kind of technology actually work sufficiently well that is going to replace the wheelchairs is incredibly exciting. So
yeah, it's a cool advance.
Nintendo announced quarterly operating profits of 33.5 billion yen, up 7% year over year, and revenue of 224.5 billion yen, down 17%. Nintendo sold, apparently Django approves. Nintendo
Sawyer in
sold.
that case, but yeah.
Oh, Sawyer. Okay, one of your dogs. Nintendo sold 1.87 million Wii U systems in the quarter, down 2% year over year, and it sold 12.6 million Wii U systems since the launch of the system in 2012. But you can forget all of that because all anybody wants to talk about is the fact that the company's president, Tatsumi Kimishima, said on the earnings call that Nintendo is looking into VR.
I guess this is big news because all
They
they've
already
ever
did it,
said, all of that any of them have ever said is we don't think VR's ready yet. So it's a shift in tone. But yeah, Miriam, that's a good point. They did VR.
It's kind of funny, right?
Yeah, the Virtual Boy. It was
Exactly.
such a disaster. It wasn't really VR though, but I guess it wasn't really reality. It was something virtual for sure. They said it wasn't fun actually, which is a little bit more of a definite statement than it's not ready. But for me, the big news of that announcement was the fact that they sold about over 4 million units of Splatoon, a game that has no easily recognizable Nintendo characters. There's no Zelda, no Link, no Mario, and it sold to one of every third installed console. And it's a new IP, which Nintendo hasn't done in a very long time. I guess they did, but not with that amount of success. So that, for me as a gamer, was the most exciting part of this.
I mean, some people are saying, oh, the NX might have a VR headset. I think at the point where the president, for the first time, and the company says, looking into VR, we're not going to get it on the next console, right?
I don't think so. I mean, there are rumblings that the NX might be some kind of an operating system that can serve different types of devices. So maybe Sony is putting their VR helmet as a headset as an accessory to their machine. I don't think it's very likely. I mean, it honestly sounds like they would be coming in a little bit late on the VR wars, and it wouldn't be differentiating enough. It sounds to me like something he's saying half, not completely, but to appease the shareholders, and saying, yes, we know, we're looking into it, we'll see what happens.
Baidu has published some data from usage of their DU Battery Saver and DU Speed Booster apps for Android. North and South Americans use more of their battery than those in Middle East and North Africa. Asian users tend to upgrade their phones the most frequently. North Americans took the longest. The report, however, did not cover Europe, Sub-Saharan Africa, or Australia. A couple other tidbits from the study, though. 16 apps on average are running on any given Android phone, 8 of which people are not usually aware of. They're just running in the background. And the most common problem with phones is overheating.
Yeah, I can see that. You know, I saw something yesterday. I didn't get a chance to dig into it more, but somebody posted something that said that the Facebook app on Android uses 20% more battery life when installed. Just installed.
Maybe because people use it that much.
No. It's just idling in the
just
background because
yeah.
because Zuckerberg is gathering data on us, right? Like that's what it is.
Now, there was an issue. I don't know if that's what it refers to, but there was an issue where the Facebook app was improperly doing some background
caching.
Yeah, some caching or something, and they were trying to fix it.
That's all it was. But I didn't get a chance to investigate. I thought it was interesting though because I wouldn't be surprised. I've noticed that some apps, and not just Facebook, but some apps really drain the battery a lot faster.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the reasons
if
that
installed.
Multitasking was resisted by Apple for so long, is because they were hoping to juice their battery life up by not allowing it, basically. And you still don't have true multitasking.
Yeah.
So
it vexes me.
Yeah, me too.
It's one of that and the file system are the two things keeping me back now, frankly. From being a full-time iPhone user, I obviously have one, but.
Yeah. I mean, again, you can get to the file system, but boy, do you have to do a lot. It's not easy.
I know, right?
Yeah, you can't really. You can get to the iCloud file system, but yeah. And interestingly, on that issue, I think a lot of people don't ever realize that you can't get to the file system and really don't care.
Well, they don't care, and it's
we're
fine.
not those people.
I think that's the whole point, right? Like, this is a problem for some of us. It's really not a problem for most people, and I'm totally aware of that. I'm not even suggesting that it's needed for most people.
But you know that Apple doesn't really care about the people who are not most people.
And it is exactly why I don't use an iPhone as my main phone. It's why I have a choice, and it's totally okay.
Tech in Asia passes along data from Canalys that Samsung has taken over as the top-selling smartphone maker in India, bumping Micromax back to second. Lenovo rose to third. Intex, Carbon, and Lava all saw declines.
It's the invasion of the smartphone makers in India. All the local makers are starting to fall back in the face of Samsung and Lenovo. Miriam, do you know how good of news is this for Samsung? Everybody wants to take over the Indian market.
Well, India is a huge deal, especially in the kind of mid-range, low-end market. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting piece of news. You know, I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens with the Chinese manufacturers in India beyond, Xiaomi, who has already got a pretty strong presence. Like Huawei is doing some pretty impressive stuff right now worldwide in terms of sales and rise, people becoming more aware, especially here in the U.S. And so it'll be interesting to see if that falls through with India. But I mean, it's a huge market. I think every phone manufacturer should want a piece of that pie, right?
What's the other one? Vivo, is that the other Chinese one that's moving in as well, along with Xiaomi?
Yes, there is Vivo, there's Xiaomi. Who else is?
Meizu, maybe.
Meizu has some presence there. OnePlus tried for a while. Oppo, of course.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the thing about India is that for a long time it was a BlackBerry and Nokia stronghold, right? And so for obvious reasons. But the thing I'm hearing from a lot of my friends who are in India, phone bloggers and stuff, is that there's a high demand for, in the same way as in China, people will want to pay the extra money to have, a Samsung or an Apple phone, right? Like because of the brand cachet.
Yeah.
Even though they can get a very wonderful product from from competitors, it becomes a status symbol at that point,
I actually, my aunt spends a lot of time in India, in the Himalayas, and she came back with a very cheap Samsung phone, around a little bit under $200 off contract, and I was really surprised at the quality of the device. It could run most apps pretty well. It was a pretty fast phone. We're really a long shot from the phones, the cheap phones around those price ranges we had even a couple of years ago. It was pretty amazing. So I'm not surprised. I mean, probably the other brands are.
I'm surprised that it's Samsung though. Like I honestly I'm surprised they bumped Micromax. I mean, Micromax is pretty much a quintessential Indian brand, right? And it's just like, and Samsung, their low to mid-range phones haven't been that great. But I think what's happening is the A series of phones, A5, A7, A9. We don't see these in the US very commonly, but they are basically the build quality and like they're 80% or 75% of the experience of buying a Galaxy S6 or a Note 5. But at half the price.
By half the price, yeah.
And I think that's what's working. And if you look at OnePlus, it's the same thing, right? Making premium-ish phones that sell for half the price. And I don't know if you guys have talked about this since CES, but Huawei launched the Honor 5X in the US. It actually started shipping yesterday, which is the first officially sold in the US Huawei phone that's unlocked with, a warranty and tech support and a 1-800 number. It'll be sold at like Best Buy and Amazon, et cetera, and that phone is amazing for $200. Yeah, it's probably the best $200 no contract phone you can buy today in the U.S. And so,
go ahead.
And so to me, it's like, okay, if they can pull this off here in the U.S., then of course they can do something similar. Samsung will probably start doing something similar pretty soon as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. The other part of Huawei's business is, of course, networking, and Cuba's state telecom, Etexa, has announced it will allow residential broadband services in 2 areas in Havana. Up until now, only diplomats and foreign employees of corporations were allowed to have residential internet connections. Bars and restaurants will also be allowed to order service, and Huawei is operating the fiber optic connections there. So a small but I think important step towards connecting another country, one of the few countries left that doesn't have at least a decent presence in its large cities of a connection to the internet.
Yeah.
The fight. Oh, sorry, Miriam.
No, I just said yeah.
Okay, well,
I'm
in
nodding.
that case, I'm sure you'll agree with this one as well. The Fine brothers posted to Medium Monday night that they have rescinded all trademarks and applications for brands related to reaction videos. They also discontinued a planned program to license their reaction video format to other people. So basically, the internet wins.
Yeah. They backed off, and we talked about it a lot on Cord Killers. If you want more detailed explanation of what happened here, but essentially it was a very badly messaged attempt to do something, and they've done the right thing and said, okay, fine, you know what, we've angered a lot of people, let's just back off. And backing off the trademarks is something they wouldn't have had to do legally. It may even be a bad move for them. Because somebody could now actually start a channel with the same name in another region and take them to court or something. So I think they've learned a lot, put it that way, out of this whole experience. Finally, Yahoo announced today that it is exploring an aggressive strategic plan to simplify the company, narrowing its focus on areas of strength to better fuel growth and drive revenue. That's different than pursuing strategic alternatives. It's an aggressive strategic plan. It's totally different.
Wait till the next paragraph, Tom. Hold that thought.
They plan to slash staff by about 15%, close offices in Dubai, Mexico City, Buenos Aires, Madrid, and Milan, and exit certain product lines. Kara Swisher said that Yahoo chairman Maynard Webb said that in addition to trying to reverse spin its Alibaba holdings, Yahoo would also be taking meetings on qualified strategic proposals. Also, quite different than pursuing strategic alternatives. Qualified strategic proposals. And revenue actually wasn't that bad, 1.27 billion, up from 1.25 billion last year, and beating expectations of 1.19 billion. So
I didn't get a chance to write it in because it's all coming in right now, but I just wanted to say that when they were talking about products, they're going to continue to focus on search, mail, and Tumblr, but they didn't mention Flickr, which concerns me and my terabyte of pictures on Flickr. And some of the products that are going to go include Yahoo Games and Yahoo Smart TV.
Oh, they had those?
I know.
Oh yeah.
Interesting to know. Thank you, Jenny. Appreciate that, Jenny. I made Jenny, face her past life fears and keep an eye on the Yahoo earnings for us. So, double appreciation for that. Thank you, Jenny.
Yahoo just amuses me.
Yeah, it's a mess right now,
Wow.
and it's only going to get messier as things go on.
Let's hold that thought on Flickr. Let's talk about that a little later when we were talking about Careful, because that's we were talking about it by email earlier today, and that's part of the reason I don't use it as much anymore is because I don't have that certainty that it's going to be cared for as a platform.
That's it for our headlines. Thanks, folks, for submitting stories on our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com, and that is a look at the headlines. All right, let's get into our discussion. This started because I was testing out a Nexus 5X. My wife works for YouTube, so she got the Google Christmas present, which was a free Nexus 5X, and I thought, I'll live with it for a week. I'll try it out, put all my apps on there. It's a nice phone. I thought it worked well. It's not an expensive phone, so it feels a little more plasticky than maybe you'd be used to if you're used to like a Samsung Galaxy or an iPhone. But the one thing I noticed early on was a lot of the pictures I was taking for either Instagram or Snapchat didn't look as good. And somebody said, well, you need to get Miriam to give you some tips on taking photos. And I'm like, yeah, I think I probably do, although I'm not sure that's the problem with the camera. Why do pictures look different on a phone that's not that differently spec'd from other phones? Is it software? Is it the way the hardware is put together? What makes one phone look different with pictures from another, Miriam?
So it is mostly the software. Actually, I have a 5X right here. It's interesting you mentioned a 5X is odd because the sensor is mounted upside down. So some Android apps still don't know that, and when you try to use them, show you an upside down picture. By the way, this is welcome to Android bleeding edge, right? This would never happen on an iPhone ever. But because they mount the sensor upside down and they just set a flag in the software to flip everything, some apps just don't know. But that's not the problem you're having. I think what we're seeing, especially on Android, it's really noticeable is if you don't have the software expertise, it doesn't really matter if you buy the best Sony sensor and the best lens stack from, say, Zeiss or another manufacturer. you're still not going to get great camera performance. And you're seeing this a lot on, some of the manufacturers we talked about earlier, like Huawei and a bunch of others. They have the chops, the specs are there, on paper it looks great, they're using the latest Sony sensor, and then you take a photo and it's good, but it's not like, iPhone or, some of the other phones you should talk about good. And I'm using the iPhone because it's a good example of a reliably solid camera phone experience. It's not the best, it is 99% of the time best. And to me, that's good enough for most people, right? So the generic answer when people ask me, I'm into phone photography, what camera phone should I buy, or what phone should I buy? I always say, well, what is your purpose? Like, are you going to snap pictures of your running kids and family and memories, or are you kind of like me, going to set up your shots and really think about your photography experience? And that really immediately dictates what I recommend. And then, the general rule of thumb is that there are a few players that do software better than others. And so you can always count on Apple, you can always count on Samsung, LG, and I'm talking about at the flagship level. Like if you go low end on LG, it gets bad very quickly, which is really strange because they make a lot of their own sensors. So they make their own software for these sensors. And then you have Nokia, now Microsoft, another leader in terms of imaging technology. And then strangely enough, it's strange that you had such an odd experience with the 5X, that you're not happy with it, because to me the 5X and the 6P are not the best Android camera phone by far, but they are consistently good for a Nexus device, which has never happened before. And they're fast, which has also never happened before. We've never had the combination of consistently good and consistently fast on a Nexus device. We had consistently fast on the Galaxy Nexus, but it was really poor. Then we had consistently good but not fast on, say, the Nexus 6 last year or the Nexus 5 before it. But then this year they've somehow managed to do both, and I'm pretty pleased. I've got a 5X and a 6P, and I really see no difference because, again, same hardware, same software. And it's interesting, right? Because Huawei makes one and LG makes another one, and yet Huawei is usually not that great for camera photography. So the 6P is probably the best Huawei camera phone you can buy right now. But at the same time, LG makes way better camera phones than the G4 and the V10. So really, it comes down to software. And if you stick with those brands that I gave you, you really can't go wrong. Brands to avoid that I kind of usually always underperform and always drive me nuts because you'd think they'd know better are Motorola. I just don't know how they do it. But even in best intentions, their camera phones just suck. And it's interesting because the benchmarks show otherwise. Like DxOMark, which, by the way, please do not, okay, let's rewind for a second and let me tell you something simple. Do not use ratings in technical specs. It's the same thing as the technical specs on the car. You have to drive the car to really experience whether it's a good fit for you. Can I live with this every day? Is there the space I need? Do I feel happy driving it? Blah, blah, blah. It's the same with a camera phone. Take a photo, see for yourself, because ultimately the specs don't mean anything. More megapixels is usually actually a bad idea. Trust me, nobody needs more than 8 megapixels, period. The only reason we have more than 8 megapixels today is because to do 4K video, we need a minimum of 12 megapixels. And so they've all gone to 13 or 16. But anything you see that's 20 or 41 is generally a waste of your time and energy. There are a few exceptions to that. Sony and Microsoft/Nokia have used large sensor arrays like 20 megapixels and 41 in the case of Nokia in the past to create these what they call super pixels in software. They basically do some software trickery, kind of like, it's very different from Lytro, but we've all heard of Lytro that does software photography. They recreate depth from this unique sensor they have. So with a lot of compute power, you can do some pretty crazy stuff when you have a large number of pixels. But by a general rule, if you have large pixels, you have smaller pixels, and smaller pixels like cups like this instead of big buckets to gather light. And if each pixel is a bucket, you're going to be able to gather more light more quickly. Think of it as the image coming into the sensor as, buckets of rain. And if your buckets can fill up, if you can catch all that rain really quickly, then you're not going to get as blurry of a picture because your camera is not moving in that time. And so the bigger the buckets, the better. So cups are not good. 21 megapixels versus a bucket, which is 8 megapixels. Of course, the sensor, given the same size sensor. So, stop me anytime if you have questions. I can go on, but I can certainly give you some basic tips on how to take good photos.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I think one of the things that is consistent in my comparison of the iPhone 6 camera and the 5X camera was that in low light situations, I was getting better Snapchat photos, particularly on the iPhone, than I was on the 5X. But it's also likely that user error is a factor here, and that the iPhone was just a little more forgiving of my user error than the 5X was. So what are some tips to help me and anybody else set yourself up for success to take the best
Sure. So here,
photo, no matter what hardware you're using?
I asked you about Snapchat specifically. Did you use you obviously use the Snapchat app to take the photos. You didn't have photos in your gallery that you used. Okay.
Right.
So the thing about Android you have to understand is the camera app does a lot of the image processing. The APIs don't really, until recently, didn't really give you the full control to the module. So apps like Facebook, whatever, they don't go deep into the camera APIs. They just use whatever's basically it's a command that tells the programmer uses that says take a photo now and give it to me, and it doesn't really do any clever processing or anything like that. So my rule of, and whereas Apple, you have to go through Apple's camera stack to get the photos, so you get more consistency again. With Android, the best thing to do is always use the native camera app that came with the phone. There's a couple of third-party apps that are really good, and I'll get to that. But most of the time, you're better served with whatever camera app came with the device that's branded by the company, because it is bare down to the metal. It takes the best pictures, usually. So here are the steps you want to take. Number one, it's kind of obvious. Wipe your camera lens, because you probably have a fingerprint on it. Most of the people I see take shots, and you see that haze in their shot, it looks like there's fog in the room. That's because they have a fingerprint on their lens. So use,
what do you wipe it with? Yeah, that was going to be my question.
What's that?
What do you wipe the camera lens with? Because aren't there
anything that's a soft, lint-free fabric that's not synthetic. So a good one would be cotton. If you have like this hoodie, the sleeve of this hoodie, or even a T-shirt under one of your layers under there, just pull out the shirt, just wipe the lens with it real quick. Avoid things that are rough, and avoid things that are made of more plasticky materials, because they just won't work. Microfiber is awesome. If you keep a microfiber around for cleaning your glasses, you can use that. But it pays to just wipe that lens. Jeans are great. The glass.
As long as you're wearing cotton jeans, not those weird hair shirt jeans that Patrick.
Right, exactly. I mean, traditional denim is what I was thinking. But basically the lens is made of a very hard, sometimes sapphire glass on iPhones, but generally a very hard glass. It's hard to scratch, so you can use jeans. Jeans are normally a little too rough for lenses, for like a real camera's lens. The biggest problem with real cameras is that the lenses are coated with these films, and the films will scratch off if you use something rough. You don't have this problem on camera phones. So wipe your lens. Number two, get close to your subject. Like, I see so many people just stand far away from a picture, and you look in the viewfinder, and what they're really trying to pick a picture of is only taking a third of the screen or a quarter. Just walk up to your subject. Don't use the digital zoom if you can avoid it, because most cameras have a digital zoom that reduces the quality of the photo. And I can explain that if you want to know why. Very few, like the Asus Zenfone Zoom and a bunch of others, actually have optical zooms, and you don't lose anything. But generally, just get in the face of your subject. That's what camera photography is all about. Unless you're going to fall off the cliff in Niagara Falls and you want to take
don't do that.
Right. Then zoom, right? The next thing to do is frame your shot. Like, think of what you're trying to take a photo of. It doesn't take, as you're like bringing up the viewfinder, just look at it and go like, do I have everything lined up? Does it look right? And one simple rule for that is don't try to center anything. Just put everything at 1/3. It's called the rule of thirds. So 1/3 from the top or the bottom, 1/3 from the left or the right. And you'll see the pictures immediately look more natural, immediately look more professional, and attract our eyes a lot more. Don't be afraid to do this. Put your phone like that. Put it like this. Portrait or landscape really make a difference on how the shot looks. If you're trying to take a photo of something that's tall, take it portrait. If you want to take a picture of something that's more of a landscape, that's the name, take landscape. So framing your shot matters, and you can do that in a heartbeat by just raising your phone, look at the viewfinder, actually look at it. The last thing you want to take care of is focus and exposure. And to do that, if you see that the picture is looking too bright in one spot, or that the subject you're trying to take a photo is looking too bright, you can tap on the screen on that subject, and it will usually, most phones will adjust exposure for that subject, and at the same time focus on that subject. Unless you're very, very close, most phones will take a picture that's pretty much in focus from about 2 feet onward. And exposure is something that, in terms of how bright the photo is something you can play with by touching the screen again. If you see that there's a lot of backlight and you're trying to get a face of a subject, for a person, use the HDR mode. That's a mode that you have on your camera. On some cameras, it's automatic, which is really awesome. But on cameras, it's not automatic. It's a quick setting away. It's usually 1 or 2 taps on the screen to get to HDR. Apple has an auto HDR mode. LG has an auto HDR mode. Samsung has an auto HDR mode. It's very smart. Use it. Turn it on, and it will actually automatically figure out whether it's use HDR. You're going to say, what is HDR? It stands for high dynamic range. All it does is make the bright things in your photo less bright, and the dark things in your photo more bright. So it equalizes the photo and looks better. And then here's another rule. Do not use your flash unless you absolutely have to. So leave it off by default. And the only time you really should be using your flash is if you want to add a little bit of fill. So, for example, an example of the person, you're taking a photo of a friend, there's a lot of light behind them, turn on HDR, and then also turn on the flash. Sometimes you can't do both, so pick one. But by lighting the flash, even though it's bright behind them, you're going to get their face bright, even though it's daylight, and get a nice photo. So these are some of the things you can do. And I would say the best thing you can do, like everything else in life, is practice and experiment. The more you take pictures in a thoughtful way, by doing all these steps consciously as you go, the better you train yourself to take better pictures. And everybody will love you for it. Your friends will say, wow, that looked fantastic. How did you do that? And the secret sauce is that at the end of the day, you can pretty much use like $100 Boost Mobile crappy Samsung phone and get fantastic photos if you just follow a few of these steps. So that's kind of the takeaway for me.
I can't wait till my friends and family tell me I'm so amazing for taking those pictures. I'm going to follow all those steps. I have one last quick question. I think we're running a little bit low on time. So looking towards the future, I'm hearing rumors about the iPhone 7 having 2 lenses, and I know there are some phones that already use 2 lenses. What is that for? Is that useful, or is it a marketing term or marketing gimmick?
Well, it really depends how it's done. HTC did 2 lenses with the one M8 and one M9, and it really didn't. Not the M9, sorry. Yeah, let me think. The M8. Yeah, the M8, not the M9. The M8, and they used one for depth perception to give you like this kind of like defocus effect, and that was really kind of useless. The ones that I've seen that really work well, if the 2 cameras have identical sensors and slightly different lenses, like Huawei has a phone called the Honor 6 Plus. It's not available in the US, but it had 2 lenses, and instead of doing 3D like 2 lenses could do, one lens is a very basically f-stop that's very wide, and the other one is a more narrow field of view. So the end result is that they could vary the depth of field, which means that you could defocus things after the fact and refocus on other parts of the photo after the fact. So
kind of like Lytro, basically.
Yeah, kind of a basic version of Lytro. And it was, the other thing is in low light, it would combine both images to get you less noise, which was really clever. So it had many, many advantages, and I could see if Apple were to adopt something like that with their in-house expertise and their iteration and their fine crafting of software, that it could be a significant boon to the photo quality in low light. So low light is always the hardest. If you're in a low light situation, this is where phones fall apart, and some companies make better phones, and there are a number of tricks you can do to make better low light photos in terms of software, but there's no other major trick for you as a user than be steady as steady as possible. Try to avoid the flash and just hold the phone like this, and with 2 hands brace yourself against something and be as steady as you can. Some phones like the iPhone 6s Plus and the 6 Plus and most of the new Android phones have something called optical image stabilization, which helps a lot. That's a feature that you should always look for on a phone. It's always a good idea to have it. One of my gripes to the 5X and the 6P, the Nexuses, is that it doesn't have it.
But the dual lens things helps with low light situations in the same way that
so the dual camera, the
optical.
dual lens thing would do that, but it still doesn't remove the shake. Ideally, you want somehow a coordinated iOS between two lenses, which is never going to happen. So that's the problem with multi-lens cameras, is that you can't do physical OIS anymore. You have to rely on software, but software is getting faster and better. So Apple does this on the 6 and 6s Plus. Sorry, 6s. They take about 5 shots in a row at like super fast speeds and take the best elements of all of them to get a steady shot in the low light. There's a number of things you can do. The Nexuses use large pixels, which compensates for low light. So there's a bunch of stuff. So picking the right device to start with really helps. But the reality is this, is that most people are not thoughtful and don't take the second or two to think about their shot before they take it. Now, I understand if your kid is running in front of you, you need the best camera phone on the market, and you just mash the button. And maybe
so which phone is that? Which phone is that?
Well, there's really 2 I recommend, maybe 3 I recommend right now for that. Any iPhone 6 and up, and the Nexuses, the current Nexuses, not the old ones, and the Samsung, all the current Samsungs. In terms of
the usual suspects,
raw speed,
I guess.
in terms of raw speed of taking photos in a row and hopefully getting that shot of your toddler running around, those are the 3 phones you want to have, the 3 brands. But that's changing all the time. For example, LG is a close second to Samsung in speed, but they're better in every other way. So to me, I would pick the LG because I don't have toddlers to take photos of, and I can frame my shots a little longer, and then I get a better picture. And so it's a tough call, but ultimately think of your photos just a little bit. Do us all that favor. And the final thing I would recommend is if you do video, and it's not square video like you're doing Instagram, or you're not doing like, say the new Facebook video, which is pretty damn awesome. Please, 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 I beg you, put your phone in landscape mode.
The final plea for landscape,
just,
unless you're forced to do otherwise.
Your eyes are designed to look at landscapes.
Yeah.
And it is, I know you're going to hold your phone like this most of the time to watch stuff, but honestly, it costs you nothing to move your phone like that to watch your kid's video you just took. And it'll look better on a TV because you're probably going to share that with your family. It'll look better in 10, 15, 20 years when we have VR and we can look at the stuff really wide angle. So please, I beg you all, no more, right, man. No more.
We're going to call those our pick of the day. The iPhone 6 and up, the current Nexuses, the Samsungs, and landscape mode. For goodness sake, people. That's our pick of the day. Send your picks to us.
Ban vertical video.
Ban vertical video. And send us your newfound landscape love and any of your picks to feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. You can find more picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Got one email before we get out of here. It was Joko Man on our blog said we had the story about how Google wants to possibly, there's a rumor that they might want more control over the Nexus phone hardware, not just the software, and make a Google-branded phone instead of a co-branded phone like they've been doing. Joko Man says, if that's true, why'd they get rid of Motorola? They had a company that could have made the Nexus brand. Now, I responded to Joko Man on the blog and said, well, that's a whole different business, being the phone company versus doing kind of what Apple does, which is we're going to design it and tell you, Foxconn, how to build it. Motorola wasn't making a whole lot of money. I'm curious, Miriam, what you think of that. If Google wants to have a vertical integrated Nexus line, would it have been better to keep Motorola, or is it smarter for them to have shipped them off and be able to choose from a lot of different manufacturers?
Well, look, I'll just say this. Did it help Microsoft to buy Nokia in terms of phones? No.
It doesn't seem to have.
And I think that's why Google ultimately let Motorola go to Lenovo, because I think they're going to be better served in the long run to do one of two things. Continue the Nexus model the way they've been doing with some really dedicated, hardcore, awesome partners. Because look, LG, it's our third LG Nexus, the 5X, and it's a fantastic phone for the third time in a row. And the first Huawei, it's the best Huawei phone ever made on the entire history of the Earth, right? So So that shows you that the Nexus program is working. But here's what I'm saying. The Pixel program, which is Google's own internal hardware, which, obviously gets sourced out to like something like Foxconn or somebody, that I could see in the same way as Microsoft making a Surface phone. That would be a good move to me to take the potentially one of the next Nexuses. So make a Pixel Nexus.
Yeah.
In-house. Basically custom built with nobody's brand on it, but assembled from all the fine parts of various manufacturers. It could be eventually Samsung making it for them, but we would never see the Samsung brand and never find out who makes it. And
right.
Because we don't know who makes the Pixel C and the Pixel today.
And they're actually freer to do that not owning Motorola, to be honest.
Exactly, and I think that's what it is. And also, look, from a business point of view, they were losing money, and they didn't see the end of that. So whether Google is better off or not, I don't know. Whether Lenovo is better off with Motorola, I don't know. I love the Motorola phones, but the camera's always been a letdown for me, so I've never been able to really endorse them and go, guys, go get a Google, get a Moto phone, right?
And what Google got out of Motorola was the patents, and exactly. So I think they feel like it was a success. That's going to be it for this Daily Tech News Show. As usual, Patrick Beja, thank you so much. Welcome to Finland. I'm glad you didn't miss a beat. Moving pretty far away within a week, so keep checking out FrenchSpin.com for more of Patrick's great work. Any last thing to tell people about?
No, not really. FrenchSpin.com is a place to go. Not Patrick on Twitter and Facebook to find about my daily musings in Finland.
And Miriam Jouar, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. It was fantastic to have you on the show. You were fantastic.
Well, thanks. Have me again anytime. I love to rant and rave, and if you want to have a longer show, you want me on, we can do that for a while. And I know you're a super busy man, but I would love to invite you on my podcast one day.
Oh, sure.
If you want to just speak phones for an hour, which is really what I do.
I mean, I could tell you everything I know about phones in about 10 minutes, but I'll stick around for the rest of it.
But, you use different phones, and I'm sure you have opinions, and that's really what matters. The same with you, Patrick. You're welcome at some point. Just ping me if you ever want to. It's not like a major podcast, but it's a lot of my old Engadget folks that are still following me because Engadget doesn't have a mobile podcast anymore, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah,
What's the best place for people to find that?
The best is to follow me on Twitter. My handle is Tankgrl, TNKGRL. You can also find me on Google+. Look for Miriam Jouar, as spelled in the show notes. You can also find me on Facebook. I'm a little hard to find because it's friends only. But in general, tankgrl.com, just like my Twitter handle.com is my website, and you'll find all my podcasts there. And sometimes I do reviews of phones, and sometimes you'll find my articles on various blogs. I write freelance for a bunch of them, Uber Gizmo, Android Central, Pocket Now, ReadWrite, a bunch of others. So, yeah.
Excellent. TNKGRL, everywhere that fine content is served. Thanks to everybody who supports the show. If you get some value out of the show, we just ask that you give that value back in whatever amount you can afford and think we're worth. dailytechnewsshow.com/support. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Give us a call, 512-59-DAILY. It's 512-593-2459. Catch the show live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. And visit our website at dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Scott Johnson. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Woo! That was a super-sized episode, but it was really good stuff.
Yeah, sorry, I tend to rant. You have to stop me. I'm sorry
I couldn't
about
stop
that.
you. It was too good. I was learning stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's hard to distill down, but I've had to do it a few times now, tell people, and it really is just, I should have said this, but I know people are still listening. The basics of photography that they teach you in photography classes, you can use those and basically apply them to, have the right gear, and that means cleaning your lens most of the time. You already have the phone. You're not going to buy another one unless you're shopping. Then the other stuff I said. And the exposure focus stuff, it gets a little hairy, but generally the composition is half the battle. Phones today are really good at adjusting focus and exposure properly, especially those phones we recommended. So if you just frame that shot, immediately it just gets more creative, And whether you choose a square format like Instagram, which I know now you can use more than square, but I like to keep square going. When I do Instagram, I work with the medium, and it's fun,
Cool. What should we call this? Episode? We've got showbot.tv.
You should note vertical video.
Oh, band vertical video. Yeah.
Or landscape mode, baby.
That's actually really good.
I used to have to write headlines for Endeavor
I
on
can
the
tell.
fly, so it's like you end up kind of.
We have we get lazy here, and we have a thing at showbot.tv where people could submit headline ideas throughout the show
great.
in the chat room. Band vertical video though, landscape mode, baby.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm going to submit that one. Landscape mode.
So they vote. You all submit your own. That's great.
And then I'm going to vote it. So.
So
What do you think, Patrick?
I don't know. I like all the ones that mention Finland and Patrick broke the internet or speedtest.net, but that's really not relevant to the main topic.
That is pretty
vertical
awesome
video.
if you broke it though. I when I did the 1 gigabit test, like for like the brief second they left it on because I had actually requested the 100 megabit, and when the tech came, I said, "Can you just show me what 1 megabit looks like?" And we got like 975 down and like 890 up, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And he said, "Yeah," and it was their own speed test, like they have their own setup.
Right.
And I didn't get a chance to try with with Ookla or whatever. But when they scaled me down to 100, I'm getting about 97 down and about 75, 80 up now. The Ookla, you can see it pegs and then it kind of rescales itself. That's what I noticed.
Yeah.
So I think it's able to rescale up to probably a gigabit, but you're probably destroying that where you are.
No, I mean, just landscape mode, baby. I voted for it as well. It's destroying the other titles. So.
Oh yeah, it's just blazing to the top.
But yeah, no, actually, mine the upload tops at about 500. But if you saw 900 or something, it depends. I don't know if it's the servers or I don't know. I'm sure some people will write in saying, "Patrick, we hate you," which I understand, but already gotten a couple of those on Twitter now.
It's funny you mentioned that because here in the U.S. it's so like I live in San Francisco, right in the city, and you'd think in the tech mecca that I am at, I could get fiber or something from someone. No, I cannot get anything good. I can get shitty Comcast, right? Which there's no way I would ever give my money to. And then best they can get me is DOCSIS 3, like 100 megabits max down and maybe 20 megabits up, which look is great, but I don't want to give them my money. And then that's the only choice I have that is really high speed. Then there is a company that I'm with actually right now called Astound, which is now owned by Wave Broadband, but it used to be an independent ISP that was awesome, and every time they get bought, it gets worse. And their cable DOCSIS 3, and I get about 20, 30 megabits down and maybe 5 megabits up with them, which isn't fine, but not great. And then there is a microwave solution you can get. I don't own the building, but if I can get permission from my landlord to put a little microwave antenna on the roof, I could get much better performance. But my landlord will never let me do that. He is an old, cranky guy who barely wants to ever come to my house. So permission for that's not going to happen. And so then DSL. And DSL, as we know, is abysmal. And so what else do I have left? It's insane. And then in Portland, Oregon, I'm out like in the city still, but in more residential part. And it's pretty much, I have two choices. I have Comcast again, and I have this fiber thing. And Comcast is not fiber there, it's coax. And when I found out, I inquired about ADSL, and the guy goes, "Oh, we replaced all the copper in the neighborhood with fiber. That's why we're offering you fiber." And I was like, "Oh my God, I got to do that." And so I did, and it was amazing.
That is fantastic. And Jenny knows this very well because in her office, she can feel the fiber going underneath her over to the CBS studios.
Blazing.
But you can't get to
underneath my office. But
then,
I don't
nobody will sell it to her.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Or they will. I'm sorry, for $1,000.
Oh right. No, I guess you're right.
A month.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, that actually makes me angry.
So you want to hear the irony? I pay. So my 100 in Portland is a $49 a month right now, which is pretty damn great.
That's amazing.
How much? What?
$49.
49 for 100 fiber. If I wanted 1 gigabit, it would be like to $129 a month or something. And I think this is a limited offer. It's probably for the first year, and then it goes up to like $79 a month or something for what I'm paying now, and probably like $200 a month for the gigabit. But the NSF here, I'm paying $79 for 20 down, of 25 down, 5 up. It's freaking bad. You know, it's like I'm better off almost getting LTE. If there weren't any data caps on LTE, I'd get LTE because I can get like 50 down on T-Mobile right now in my house if I want. Through
in Finland they have data capped plans and no data cap plans, and the no data cap are like $5 more expensive, and those are new. And apparently a lot of people are angry about it because they were so used to the no data caps that when they added the data caps and bumped the price of the no data cap ones, people got angry.
Nobody likes price increase.
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic actually. Without diving into U.S. Crappy internet service hate, which I have a lot of. A huge amount of, but it's a really interesting discussion. That's what we were sort of mentioning by email with Tom. It's I got here and I got this huge connection, and I was like, at which point is it overkill? Like, I'm never gonna use a gig down. Like, it's an actual gig down and 500 up.
Until you start streaming those 4K videos.
Oh, 4K means what? 30 megs?
5 at a time.
Right.
Well, that's
no.
That's why
it's 30 megs. I could do what? 30 of them at a time.
See, that's why I picked the 100 megabyte package, because I'm like, at this point I can afford to pay for the 1 gigabit, but it's bragging rights. That's all I'm paying for. I'm not paying for any improvement in my performance. It's so fast already.
I pay for 300 because I want no possibility that anything is going to be a problem on my end, right? Like, and I have lots of things updating throughout the day, automatically putting software patches on the Xbox or the PlayStation, this and that. So I don't want that to ever get in the way of anything else. So it's a ridiculous amount of overhead, but I don't. I could get 500 from Fios, but I haven't run into a point yet where I need it.
But Tom, it's your business. Like, if I was podcasting professionally on a daily basis for my living, like you, I would absolutely do that. There's no doubt about it.
And for me as well, that's the reason. It's absolutely because it's my business. It's not because I wanted the gig.
It's not because Patrick just wanted to lord it over all the rest of us.
No, well,
Patrick,
actually, the real reason is that
come on.
It's no. The real reason is that it's 40 euros, I think, something like that.
Oh my gosh,
so it's not. I can't. I'm not gonna save $5 a month for 100 meg, 900 megs less. So, but it's really it is mind-boggling to think that you can get a gig down and actually get a gig down.
I just had this thing that popped up in my head of like, imagine if you were like a pack rat and now you become a digital pack rat. And you have a 1 gigabit connection and you start buying hard drives.
A digital
you start downloading websites.
I'm
going to grab all of Wikipedia today. Oof. I'm going to grab all of Google. Oh, that's going to take a few years.
That's what happened to Brewster Kale. It became the Internet Archive.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking who usually buys these kinds of, like, if you run a company, like a huge company, not a huge, but if you have a few hundred people, probably you could get by on a gigabyte connection, probably, because not everyone is going to be.
I can think of a couple of use case scenarios, especially if you do distributed computing, where you need to do remote access. We used to have editors remote access into the edit machines at work, and they would just edit from home. And they would able to sync audio. It wasn't. You wouldn't want to finish the project that way, but you could definitely A-roll and do a lot of work without having to physically be in the office.
Actually, that sort of bumps into our potential future discussion.
Yeah.
Where these are the kinds of uses where we're not really thinking about them now, but maybe if we had all that speed available, we would just find other uses, and then it would
up that bandwidth.
yeah.
We'll fill it up. There's no doubt. VR and stuff. When we start streaming, 360-degree HD, resolution VR, it'll happen. But I mean, we're not ready. Look, like half of I'm at the bleeding edge right now in Portland with 100. And here in SF, I'm kind of barely, skating across here. It's just we're not ready in the U.S. at least. You're lucky to have FiOS where you are, Tom.
No, it was one of the things that made this where we decided to live is that it was a FiOS area that was also near Eileen's workplace. Like those were that was the Venn diagram we were looking at.
For sure, yeah. Well,
you can't take a job anywhere that doesn't have FiOS service.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say if you ran VPN at home and you were like super paranoid, you could. I mean, I used to do that with the Office VPN. Office. I would VPN into work if I was abroad and access my email and stuff that way, going through there just in case, because I was super paranoid, doing banking or anything like that.
Yeah, she's paranoid too.
She's approving.
Yeah. All right, well, that is it. I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks again, everybody, for watching and listening, and thank you again, Miriam.
Thanks for having me, Tom. Anytime. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go, guys.